Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a spin through the biggest stories in MMA. And on today's episode, Brandon Moreno gets his first dub down in Mexico as he gets past Astro Boy. An aspiring future president of Ireland wants to fight in the UFC while in office. And the PFL is back. Welterweights and featherweights on display this Thursday, not Friday or Saturday, Thursday. Hello, everyone. Gorgeous George here on the con. And look at the distinguished panel we have for you today. Goes from MMA Junkie Radio. He's here in Las Vegas, the fight capital of the world. Danny Segura back in Miami. He was in Mexico City covering the event for us, and the Boston shot caller in Boston, of course. He is Nolan King. He rounds out the panel. Cold coffees on the ones and twos. Let's get going, fellas. Brandon Moreno finally tasted victory on home soil as he defeated Steve Erceg in the main event of UFC on ESPN 64. The event took place in Mexico City in front of 19,000 and change, and boy, were they loud. Nice bounce back for the UFC after that London card last week that produced no KOs and almost put Tom Aspinall to sleep. This card certainly popped on Saturday. Let's start at the top of the bill and discuss the Assassin Babies dub. Danny, like I said, you were there. Lead things off. React.
Yeah, it was a great moment and great moment for Moreno. We saw how emotional he was after the fact. And it's funny because during the media day, he was playing it all down. He's like, oh, I don't believe in curses. I don't think about my past, this and that. But then after in the post-fight press conference, he admitted, he's like, no, I was totally thinking about it. And it was totally in my mind. Just to kind of let you know how these fighter dynamics work sometimes. But yeah, it was a huge win for him. Before this event, he was 0-2-1, 2 defeats, 1 draw in Mexico. It's really been heartbreaking for him. He's obviously the lead figure of Mexican MMA. And for him not to be able to get a win in home soil, that's really bothered him. So the fact that he got that moment and the Mexican people got that moment, it was really nice to witness, and man, he deserved it. He looked good out there, and I guess we'll get into what his future is. But it was a really good night for Mexican MMA. Some guys lost, but overall, really positive results for the country.
Yeah, and I love this walkout, man. How about you, Nolan, man? What did you think of Moreno's win and, the impact it probably had on his psyche and, of course, all of Mexico, where the UFC is highly vested in?
Yeah, like Danny said, it was a good moment. You go back and look, and the last time Brandon Moreno won in Mexico was in 2012. It was his third pro fight. So to get one at home, it's a big moment, big win in the UFC, keeps that win streak alive. I think to a certain degree, like if you go back to the fight he had against Albazi, right? Coming out of that one, I think people were re-energized. I thought that performance that he put on really put himself kind of back in that conversation. Not that he necessarily ever left. This one, a little bit more technical, a little bit less action, a little less dominant. So I think it was good to build on that win. At the same time, I don't think it was the most exciting fight of all time. So I don't know what that does in the UFC's eyes, especially with Kyoji Horiguchi coming into the picture now at flyweight. It's an interesting division. It's really, I talk about this all the time with teams and fighters and coaches and managers. Like there are no easy fights at flyweight. Like even the guys that are at the bottom of the roster, the 0-2 guys are pretty damn good and technical for any division. So to me, good win. You go out there, you beat a guy like Steve Erceg the way that he did without any question. Extend a winning streak. I think it puts you right there. Will he be the next one? Not so sure. Maybe. We'll have to see. Again, this division's in a weird spot because we don't really know what's next, right? We don't know. It sounds like Kai Kara France, but we don't know what the holdup is. We thought it was going to happen in April. Now it sounds like it might happen in June. So let's see how that shakes out and what direction the UFC goes in, and kind of how Horiguchi's entrance too. Like what we saw them give Kaya Sakura a shot right off the bat. So if Horiguchi goes out there, gets an impressive win, sounds like he's going to maybe be fighting in June. We'll see what the UFC wants to do there.
Hey, you weren't joking around. His last win was really 2012 in Mexico?
Yeah, he'd never won fighting for the UFC. He'd never won in Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah, looking at it, he had
that's an MMA fight, or was this like Revolucion Street in Tijuana outside the Bambi Club?
It wasn't Tijuana, so you were right about that. It was in UWC against a guy named Luis Garcia. He won in the first round, but then he competed He lost to Sergio Pettis. He had a draw against Askar Askarov. Then he lost against Royval, and then this was his first win. So kind of crazy there, huh?
Askarov was in Mexico too?
Yep.
It was, yeah.
You know, that
He should've
guy's
won
got a
that
win
battle.
over Pantoja, and he retired Benavidez. Like, I wonder, he went off the Brave. I don't know what happened, but, you know, having a win over the current champ, you'd think you'd figure out a way to come back. Horiguchi came back. UFC, bring Mohamed Mokayev back. Let's get this thing popping again. Goes, react, please, to Moreno's win in Mexico.
First of all, impressive coordinates you gave there in Tijuana, Georgia. Anybody who knows what George is referring to, he must have had a good time out there. That fight, you know, it was good. It was very tactical. It had its fun moments. I felt like there was a lot of pressure on Brandon Moreno, you know, given what everybody's talking about, just trying to get that win in front of his home country. I feel like maybe he fought a little bit safer than what he normally does, but that might be what he has to do to get these wins, right? Sometimes he puts himself all out there and it hasn't gone his way. So I kind of understand why he did that. I just hope he can kind of blend a little bit of some of the risk taking that he used to take in other fights. But overall, I thought it was good. But I'll tell you what the difference was for me watching the fight was, you know, if you go back even a week before, the crowd didn't really show up, right? But here the crowd did. And despite maybe some slow moments in that fight, they didn't make you feel like that was what was going on. They made you feel like what you were watching was absolutely the most important thing that you could be watching right now. And that's given that March Madness is going on, baseball's picking up again. The crowd really, really brought the energy. And I think that's what brought a little bit of those moments out of Brandon Moreno. So I'm happy that he was able to do that. To Steve Erceg's credit, I thought he fought pretty well. I actually thought the fight was a little bit closer than what the scorecards read. I thought he had his moments, but he failed to kind of show us that he needs to stop being that guy that the UFC just calls on when they need a body. He has these moments where you look at him and you go, this guy could actually do something really well. He just ran into a freight train in Brandon Moreno, but I thought he put on a pretty decent performance. This is what the UFC needs, a card outside of the Apex, outside of a pay-per-view with a lot of energy. I had a good time.
For sure. Yeah. The significant strikes, I went back and looked at them last night. They were all in favor of Erceg. I started to think, how was this 49-46 across the board? Danny, how did you score it? Did you score it while you were out there? Or did you have your attention on something else? I'm not trying to say Moreno didn't win. He clearly won.
Yeah.
But Erceg, I thought, fought well. And I thought at one point was even starting to take control in the championship rounds.
Yeah, I was there watching it live, cage side, and I had it 4-1 Moreno. I think Erceg might have won the second round. I think going into the third, I had it 1-1. And then from then on, I just thought Moreno was the one that like pressed the action more, was looking like Erceg didn't really land anything. Yeah, sure, there's a stat for significant strikes, but he didn't really land anything that rattled Brandon, whereas Brandon was threatening a little bit more. And then towards the end, he started mixing in his grappling a little bit more, which kind of sealed the deal for me. But yeah, I thought it was at worst 48-47 for Moreno, but I can't find 3 rounds for Erceg in there.
Okay. All right, guys. So now the question is, did Moreno do enough, Nolan, for a title shot over Kai Kara-France, who's been rumored to fight Alexandria Pantoja? You mentioned that earlier. And of course, we got Manel Kopp, who just got a big win himself. What are your thoughts here? We have a few potential candidates.
Well, I think it's a good thing for him. 2 things. We always talk about this. Timing is everything, right? So if this Pantoja fight happens with Kara-France in the next couple of months, I mean, this Brandon fighting again in September in Guadalajara, like that's the stars are aligning there, right? Like that's easily a fight they throw on there at UFC 320 on the Noche UFC event, like 100%. So I think he's in a good position for it. You know, I guess it comes down to like when Pantoja is going to fight again. Is he going to fight June? Can he turn around for September? He's a guy that seems like he likes to fight pretty often when he's not hurt, right? He's kind of ready to go at all times, except we have this long break where we don't know what's going on. So I think he's done enough. I think that fact that event's happening at 320 kind of breaks any sort of, or excuse me, it's happening in Mexico. Like it breaks any sort of tie. So I think he could be the guy to get it next. He's in a really good spot for it.
And Pantoja said he wanted to fight at 314. He never mentioned he wasn't not hurt.
Yeah.
Him and Manel Kopp had a nice exchange after Kopp's win. I don't know, but you're right. Whatever happens, let's get that fight done so that hopefully we do have Moreno challenging for the title in Guadalajara. I think it makes way too much sense to not do that. Who's the biggest draw though for Pantoja? If he's playing the money game, right? Kaikar France, Manel Kopp, Brandon Moreno. I mean, I think this is a slam dunk answer, but educate me here. Might be wrong. Who do you think provides him the most pop?
Well, there's so many different ways of answering that question, right? Like if this fight took place in Mexico, then how do you deny Brandon Moreno, right? I think a lot of people would want to see him. The most popular is Brandon Moreno. The guy who has the most momentum is Manel Kopp, and then the fresh matchup is Kaikar France. So I would think a hardcore probably would be tired of seeing Brandon Moreno in this position. So maybe Manel Kopp would be, after all the buildup, he's great at building up fights, the talk. I would think he might be the bigger draw. But depending on the location, you can make an argument for Brandon Moreno, right?
Yeah, because this would be 4 if we throw in the reality show. You agree, Danny? Is that the way to go from the financial standpoint?
I think we got to start a hashtag right now in the chat. Goes be tripping. Goes be tripping. How is this even a debate? It is Brandon Moreno. Just look at his Instagram. He's got almost 2 million. We're talking about what the biggest fight is right now for Pantoja. He's got over 2 million followers on Instagram. Kaikar France and Kopp combined don't even break 500,000. And also, there's a reason why Manel Kopp, and I love Manel Kopp, by the way, his style, but there's a reason why he was fighting in the Apex. I don't think he can get 20,000 people in an arena. So look, all respect to those guys. I do think especially Kopp has done more sporting wise than Moreno. He has more merit and he deserves a title shot a lot more than Moreno. But if we're talking about what's the biggest fight right now at flyweight, it's got to involve Moreno. He's easily the biggest star. He's got an entire country behind him. He's the first ever Mexican-born champion in the UFC. And his days are he said it at the media day, like he's not ready to retire anytime soon, but he knows like he doesn't have a long time left in this game. So it's got to be that's the biggest fight the UFC can make. Brandon Moreno knows it. I think the UFC knows it. I think it's just all about how to make the pieces fit at this point.
Yeah, but Danny, by your logic, we would just make him fight Moreno over and over and over. He's always going to be the bigger draw, but at some point, how many times?
Well, that was the question, Goes. That was the question.
We can't watch it over and over and over.
What's the biggest fight? I still think that's the biggest fight, even though he's lost to and look, he's given you enough, I feel like, to maybe not be favored over Pantoja. I don't think that's gonna happen, but like, could Brandon Moreno win, especially if it's on home soil? He's looked good in his last 2 fights.
Well, Danny, let's stay with you on something here. That is my next question. Who has the best shot at beating Pantoja? Skill sets now. Let's just talk about skill sets. Forget about locations. We'll just agree that it's at the Apex, I guess. Yeah. It's as neutral as you can get. Who has the best shot at unseating the Brazilian?
Yeah, I do think it's Kopp. He's easily the biggest power puncher out of that bunch. And Pantoja gets hit a lot. So I do think the consequences of the shots would be a big factor in the fight. And he's very strong, very big for the weight class. So his takedown defense, or naturally, he should be able to fight off the takedowns and the grappling attempts from Pantoja. I do think Pantoja is the best flyweight right now. I think the only thing that will beat him at this point is age, because he is older than all of them. And I think eventually that will be a factor. But if you're telling me to pick someone for my life to beat Pantoja, I got to go with Kopp.
You guys agree? Down below?
Gooch.
Or
Gucci.
Not bad.
They train together. They've trained together for years. Maybe he has the cheat codes. I think he's obviously an experienced guy. I'd be really interested in seeing that fight. I mean, we can argue about who's earned it, who's more popular, blah, blah, blah. But in terms of matchups, intrigue is me as a fan. I think that's the one matchup wise right now that seems the most interesting to me. And Cap does too. I mean, a fresh face. He's on a roll. He's got a good skill set, good power puncher, like Danny said. But I think the fact that Horiguchi and Pantoja are so experienced, they have a lot of experience against one another in the gym, could add some interesting wrinkles. And then obviously the Japanese market too. Like, I think the UFC has with having Asakura and Horiguchi on the roster now, like they have a big opportunity to once again break into that market. We haven't seen them go there for a while. So That's one. Again, I'm not a fan of somebody jumping in and getting a title shot right off the bat. Maybe we're talking 2-3 title fights away in the flyweight division, but that's the one that probably interests me the most right now.
I'm glad you cleared up who the gooch was, because I thought you were talking about Arnold Drummond's bully on different strokes. All right. Yeah, that's actually a pretty good choice. He is back. I guess he's in that training, or what's it called? The cycle, the testing pool.
Testing pool.
Yeah. Is Moreno on the Mount Rushmore of flyweights?
I think he is. I think it's DJ Cejudo, Pantoja, and then he probably outed Joseph Benavidez.
Okay. So Moreno unseated Joseph?
I think so, man. And if he didn't, then it's coming.
Oof. Okay. How about you, Danny? You agree?
Yeah. But DJ's obviously number one, and I think he will forever be. It's going to be hard to top what he's done. I would say second, it's got to be between Pantoja and Cejudo, and then after that, Moreno.
Dolan, unanimous?
Yeah, I like Danny's list there. I think that's pretty accurate. I think Pantoja, if he goes out there, wins again, might have that argument for the sole number 2 spot.
Yeah, I agree.
Nolan, who is next for Ursig? Let's talk about Astro Boy, who's lost 3 in a row. He went the distance with the champ. We know he's capable of it. He actually took 2 rounds on 2 judges' scorecards out in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. So it wasn't like he just was a punching bag, for Pantoja. But he has lost 2 in a row, one to Kai Kara France, now to Moreno. What happens next for him?
Man, I'd like to see him fight somebody in the rankings, but it doesn't need to be even a top 5 guy. I feel like we never saw him build his resume. You know what I mean? He went from going out there, had a few quick wins, beat Matt Schnell, and then he's in a title fight. And then he gets Kai Kara France, who's the next title challenger. And then he gets Brandon Moreno, who might be the next title challenger. He hasn't had that opportunity to really we've seen his ceiling maybe to a certain degree. I'm not saying he can't get better. And we really haven't seen what the best he can do is and get a win. We need to see him fight a 10 to 15 guy, or maybe 9, 8, 7, something like that. So give him a ranked guy, give him a fight that maybe he's a little bit of a favorite in, because I think he's gone out there and filled some big spots for the UFC. I mean, this one, right? He was supposed to fight a few weeks ago, and they rebooked him to fight on this card. So been a company guy, had a quick run up the ladder, but all right, let's give this guy an opportunity to not end up having a sub 500 record because he took all tough fights. Because he's been right there. I mean, these have been outside of getting starched by Kara France. He's proven himself as one of the best in the division, even though he's lost.
Sakura's name earlier in the shoshow. Do you like that matchup?
I do. Now maybe I'm being a hypocrite because that's kind of a tough fight too, but no, that's something like that would be great. I don't know if the UFC has any Asia fight nights coming up, or even in Australia or something. That would be, I'm sure you could go to that market with that one.
Guys, you got a name, or you agree? Maybe Asakura might be the best bet. Both coming off a loss.
Mm-hmm. I would have liked to see somebody like a Joshua Van or a Matt Schnell, but they're both booked. So I kind of like that. That'll work.
Okay.
Give him somebody in the top 15. I do think he's got to fight down in competition. And I really enjoyed what Go said. I don't think he's tripping for that comment, but he's got to stop being the guy that the UFC calls for to fill a spot. Okay, guys, I did my role. I fought Pantoja, I fought Kai Kara France, I fought Brandon Moreno in Mexico. But now, let me have a normal career. Let me have full training camps. Let me fight the opposition that I'm supposed to be fighting, because I do think that he's good. He's only 29 years old. So, I think in a year or two, he might be even a better version of himself. But I don't think he'll be able to achieve that if he keeps on fighting the very best under not the best circumstances. So whatever it is, I hope it's somebody that's lower in the rankings than somebody in the top 15.
The good and bad from UFC Mexico. Back to you, Danny. Give me a good and bad that occurred this past weekend. And so this one will be interesting because you were there. Maybe you had a better view than the rest of us.
The good, I think the event was a complete success. It was sold out. The crowd was really, really into it. And as I mentioned at the start of the show, there were a lot of good results for Mexican MMA. Seeing Brandon Moreno finally pick up a win, that was very much needed for the Mexican crowd. Manuel Torres, the way he bounced back The stoppage, we can get into it later, but the way he bounced back, it was brutal. Edgar Chairez, who I think also has a lot of start potential.
What a story, huh? With the grandfather and the truck.
Yeah, and people love Chairez. But people might not know this, but he's a huge America fan, which is the biggest club soccer team in Mexico. And most of the legends that played in the Mexican national team and that are like super famous played in America, and they all love Chairez. So Chairez is a big star, and he hangs out with them, etc. And America, very much like Real Madrid has embraced Ilia Topuria, America posts about Chairez and stuff, and it's a huge club. Might be the biggest club in all of the Americas, to be honest. Maybe between that or Boca Juniors, but still. So yeah, Chairez picked up a win. Raul Rosas, David Martinez with a beautiful knockout. I mean, it was all great. So I think all around positive night for Mexican MMA. One negative, though, one bad, I would say, was that co-main event stoppage. I don't know what Mike Beltran was thinking, and I love Mike Beltran, but like, dude, he took like 15 or 16 unanswered shots, and to me, it was pretty clear he wasn't moving anywhere, like any direction with that single leg. Even Manuel Torres said at the post-fight presser when I asked him, he was looking at the ref like, yo, are you going to do something? But he's got a job to do, so he just kept on swinging that hammer. But yeah, you don't want to see somebody like Drew Dober, who's like such a nice guy, had a ton of respect going into the fight, like take that type of damage. So yeah, I think Beltran kind of fucked up in that one.
I think he was squeezing the leg, and that's what threw him off. Like, he didn't have that moment of, collapsing, but I hear what you're saying. It was on the far end, I liked it to go as long as possible. But Goes, how about you? A good and a bad.
I think good was the crowd. They really brought it. I thought from beginning to end, they were a lot of fun, a lot of energy. The bad were probably Pfeiffer's comments, post fight. Once he got in the U.S., he really took
the good and the bad, not the good and the ignorant. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. This is a big country. You had a problem in a small part of a very big country. So I thought those comments were kind of shitty. But
yeah, they were way off, man. Hot chicks, great food, the culture, the music. Give me a break. I mean, you overreacted. He should be on overreaction with Simon Simano on Tuesdays. Pfeiffer was way out of line there over something that happens to all of us. You can get food poisoning in the United States, for crying out loud. Nolan?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with the bad then. I think it kind of sucks for Kelvin Gastelum too, right? Like, you go out there, a guy that we know weight is not is not an easy thing for him to make. He's struggled with it, but he goes out there, he hits the scale, he looks fresh. He has a kind of an interesting fight, gets to fight in Mexico, which I knew, meant a lot to him. And then to have it all fall out the day of the fight kind of stinks. So, I wouldn't be shocked if the UFC already has that one back on the books. But still, I mean, to go through that whole camp, go down there, do all that, and then have it all yanked out from under you stinks. But the good is, to end on a positive note, I think UFC 320 heading to Mexico for the Mexico Independence Day card is great. I know that was a big thing for a lot of people saying, Vegas is cool and all, but why not hold it in the country in which you're celebrating their Independence Day? So that'll be good scene in Guadalajara. It'll be interesting to see what they put on the card too. But I think that was great. And the UFC, great poster, great graphics too. I know their graphics get ripped a lot, but I think they've nailed the Noche stuff over the years. So shout out to them.
And Guadalajara is chic, cosmopolitan. It's a city they haven't been to. It's the hub of Lobo Gym, right, Danny, with some great fighters there. So I think it's going to be one
Diego Lopez streams out of there.
Yeah,
Diego Lopez, by the way, wants to defend his title in Noche. He said that at a Q&A. It was all in Spanish, but he said that at a Q&A. I'll get an English write-up for the site. But everyone wants to fight in Guadalajara because you have all the pluses of Mexico City, but you don't have to deal as much with the elevation. So, that card's going to be a banger.
A lot of Miss Universes have come from Guadalajara too. Get your tickets, young fellas out there that are single. Go out there and have some fun, man. All right. So my good, I'll make it quick. I love seeing Julio Cesar Chavez's presence at an MMA event. I feel like it's an endorsement, man, from probably the greatest boxer in the history of Mexico, which is a rich boxing and combat sports nation. It's like I say, it's like an endorsement. So I love seeing him there. And then the bad was Bruce Buffer. I don't even have to say, man, I love me some Bruce Buffer and then hammer him because everyone knows he's a legend, right? I think he just proved to us he's human. He just called the wrong guy's name. Jamal Emmers was the winner of the fight, not Gabriel Miranda. And what I didn't like was the UFC didn't even give him a chance to just fix that. They just cut his mic and it made it look like made him look more amateur, which he definitely isn't. And DC started talking, but that was about the only thing I disliked. I really, really enjoyed the show. And of course, Piper's comments. Yeah, now I'm really all about Gastelum, who is Mexican-American, preserving that fight and just building off of that heat.
I got to say one thing.
Sure.
Now that you mentioned, can we get Joe Martinez on these cards? I just feel like I love Bruce Buffer. Again, historic figure. But I feel like for these cards, for the Noche brand, those nights belong to Joe Martinez, in my opinion.
Yeah, I endorse that. Hey, some real nice comments are coming out from people that are in here every week. We're live every Monday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And Shul Jubilee's gas station. He's in here all the time. Steve Williams says, good morning, boys. C Styles, Utah. Ben giving a shout out to Junkie Nation. Lazy Bed as well. Let's ride Junkie Nation. Lazy Bed also giving you a shout out, Danny, saying some great post-fight interviews. Listen, you can leave a comment or a question and we'll try and address it as we're doing the show. So please bring them.
Started the Goes Be Trippin' hashtag. I think I saw something.
I'm looking for it, but I don't know. It was somewhere by the Danny was not welcome in Guadalajara for what he said about America.
Yeah, I wasn't sure who it was, but I think I just saw it somewhere in there.
Chivas, that is the home of the Las Chivas, the Guadalajara. Yeah, I forgot.
You better wear a mask like a scorpion or something when you show up.
Yeah, and folks, listen, since I'm appealing to your good nature for questions and comments, it helps the show. How about a like for the show right now? It really helps trigger the algorithm so we can get it in front of more viewers. And of course, why not subscribe to the channel? You get free content all the time. And now I got to rush through some topics to make up some time here. Cain Velasquez's sentencing, it took place this past week. I know it's going back a few days. We didn't address it on last week's SBC. So now that we got that talking fights, Mexico part out, let's discuss this. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison with credit for time served, which means roughly about 2 years approximately is where what Cain Velasquez could be behind bars now. I guess there's always that possibility of a good time served or whatever it's called, and maybe he gets out early. Now, as most of you know, he was charged with 10 felony charges stemming from a 2022 incident in which he engaged in an 11-mile high-speed car chase with Harry Goularte, who was accused of molesting Velasquez's then 4-year-old son on multiple occasions. Nolan King, I think you're the perfect person to start the convo here as you covered this case from the beginning. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a kind of a crazy 3 years. I think anybody that's followed the story knows how it's not just a public figure, sports figure who got arrested for something. It's got multiple. It's two cases that are coinciding. It's brought in discussions about legality versus morality. There's been twists and turns throughout it. If you had told me a couple of years ago that, you know, when Cain was getting his bail denied over and over and over again, that at the end of this, that he would get a 5-year sentence, most of which he would be, essentially on house arrest, but still permitted to work, still permitted to train, pretty much living a normal life, but they just have to sign off on waivers that if he travels outside the area. If you had told me that a couple of years ago, I would have thought you were crazy. So I know there were a lot of people out there that, wanted him to just get time served. At the same time, I think this has to be viewed. Again, I'm not a legal expert. Everybody's always asked me, what do you think? Do you think he's going to get off? How much time do you think? Never been good at that, but I can tell you that if you were to look at the vibes from 2 years ago from today, or maybe two and a half years ago, and you traveled forward in time and got to learn what he actually got, I think you would think it was a massive win for him and his legal team. So I think all things considered, his lawyers, the two teams that he had, the Mark Garrigus team to start, who's a pretty well-known celebrity lawyer, and then Renee Hessling, who's been his more like localized lawyer since he got bail. I think obviously they did a great job, getting him a pretty low, reduced sentence. I think this was pretty much outlowed everybody's expectations. And now essentially there's still some things that need to be figured out. How much time will he actually serve? It seems like Javier Mendez did an interview the other day. He said they've been kind of hearing that he'll serve 4 to 8 months, and then he'll be able to get out because of good behavior or whatever. So all things considered, not the, you know, he was facing life. So this is, in my opinion, if you ask me, that I think this seems like a win for them.
Okay. And DC did an interview the other day. I guess he spends 23 hours in solitary, if anybody's wondering. So because he's, I guess, considered celeb, high profile, they keep him away from everyone else. But still, that can't be, you know, that's no picnic. 23 hours alone in solitary. All right, guys, listen, we're a little bit behind on time. So like Jack Dawson on the Titanic said, let's make it count. Danny, your reaction, and also, will this impact his legacy?
I think it will, but like in a good way. Like if you see most of the interviews he has with fighters or interactions, like people have so much respect for him for what like he did. And again, I know that that's what got him in trouble, and I'm not saying it's right. But like Nolo said, it's like an issue between, I guess, morality and legality, which it can get kind of difficult. But yeah, man, it sucks to see, because like something terrible happened to him, and I think we can all agree that anybody under those circumstances could have a similar reaction, if not worse. So yeah, it just sucks. It all around is a really sad story. I feel terrible for Cain, for his family, but like Nolan said, keeping in mind that he was facing life, this is a bit of a win, and I hope that those days get reduced for good behavior and other things. But yeah, man, all around just a tragic story.
Does this hurt MMA's reputation in any way? You know, going back all the way to human cockfighting, getting banned on cable and satellite, and of course along the way some of our guys have gotten in some trouble, and so sometimes we have trouble getting to that next step, getting accepted, you know, as a proper sport, although I think we have gotten there. But what are your thoughts to those that, you know, just are letter of the law and saying, hey, no, man, this guy tried to kill someone, he tried to be a vigilante here?
Well, I mean, look, honestly, I feel like the statement that he released helped him out a lot. I think the judge took a lot of what he said into consideration. He did atone for some of the things that he did. Our MMA bubble's small, right? But you have to remember that all this happened in the real world, and that's where there aren't fans of MMA. There are people who don't know who Cain Velasquez is. They're the ones that want justice for what happened and what could have happened to other people, right? I think the judge did a good job of kind of satisfying those people, but at the same time, satisfying the people that understand where Cain's coming from. There's people on this panel that know him personally. He's a very good guy. I've never known him to be a bad person. He just made a mistake, and he's paying for that mistake. And I think what they gave him is pretty fair, considering everything that it could have been. Does it hurt our sport? I don't know that you could say that. I think the people that want to hurt our sport are going to find ways to do that. Trust me, every week we give them a new option to do that, right? But when those people do that, it's hard to kind of listen to like Joe Pfeiffer's statement and go, oh, I see where he's coming from, right? But with Cain Velasquez, like you can kind of understand, okay, I see what this man is going through. I don't think it's going to hurt his image too much, or the image of our sport. I mean, look at Michael Vick crawled out of the hole that he was in. All right. If he can do that, trust me, Cain Velasquez will be fine. Our sport will be fine.
Dude, you said Michael Vick, and all of a sudden I heard Yogi coming from upstairs. Like, what the motherfucker? Still hasn't forgiven Michael Vick. Hey, Nolan, I know I got to rush off here, but Goularte, he stands trial in June, right? Have you heard anything about, like, does he actually have any form of defense, or does it look like he certainly is going to get more than 5 years, or what do you possibly know from here? And I don't expect you to be on top of that because your job was to cover Cain, but I figured I'd throw a dart at the board.
No. I mean, I've sat on all those hearings too. He's going June 2nd. He has a hearing that's it's a master calendar trial hearing. So essentially they've said, hey, you're going to trial. And I think this first hearing he'll go and they'll tell him like, okay, here's your official trial date. So it's a date to set more dates, but it will start, not too far after that. And I mean, we don't know as much about that case yet as we did the Cain case, just because it's not as far along. We haven't heard necessarily a lot of the arguments, right? Like I think sometimes lawyers will save kind of the better things or the more details to wait till they need them, right? They keep them kind of in their back pocket. So little things here and there, I think there's a little bit of a word, like it's it's a tough thing, right? Involving a kid. I think that's a big part of this too. And so from what the couple hearings where they have gone in depth and we have kind of heard them butt heads, the two sides, like his defense is essentially like, didn't happen. This kid is too young to be able to accurately, verbalize what kind of or process what was said. Can you trust a 4-year-old? Things like that. So, watching a 4-year-old testify about something like that was one of the worst things that I've ever seen. I'm sure that there's going to be more of that coming up. And the other thing is too, like without Cain being around for his kid, like that's kind of a tough situation, right? So I guess we'll see what happens in June. It's a little bit, he's out on Gallart's out on, on bail on GPS monitoring right now. I think he's moved towns. He's asked for a construction worker license to still be able to work in that capacity. All sorts of civil lawsuits going each way at this point. We've got people suing Cain. We've got Cain's family suing the daycare. So it's a total legal mess right now. And I guess in June we'll kind of maybe start to hear more details about that. I also, for people that are interested, Jen Brown, who used to do the desk work for Bellator, she actually came out with a podcast series through Amazon with Cain's wife about the whole thing. So if you're interested in hearing their perspective on it, I think it came out probably a year and a half ago or so. I forget the name of it, but if you type in Cain Velasquez, Jen Brown, it will come up on, you can listen to it on Amazon Prime.
Hey, a 4-year-old had to testify? Are you shitting me?
Yeah, it was rough, man, especially with, they had to set up like a blocker so he couldn't see the Gallart because Gallart was in the room. Obviously it's a court hearing. So it was rough. I mean, I think just even getting answers was 90% of the battle. So again, now more time's passed, right? A couple of years have gone by, but at the same time, I mean, I think a lot of those working issues will be similar.
Okay, good stuff, guys. Let's go to topic 3. Conor McGregor, is he done fighting? That's the question. He's the biggest star ever in our sport, former UFC featherweight and lightweight champ. I feel like I have to say that because it's been so long he's competed. Some might just know him as the proper 12 guy. But listen, rather than is he fighting Michael Chandler, let's talk about what he recently said. We have a video. We're going to play a clip of a recent BKFC. He was asked some questions and he had some interesting answers.
You keep saying that you're going to fight in bare knuckles. So when is it going to happen?
Yeah, like I said, I've got 2 fights on the contract. I'm in negotiations. Last week something happened to me. I went to the White House and my country is in my, my heart bleeds for my country right now. So there's a lot of stuff going on back home. I'm happy with what I've done. There's something else for me that's in my gut right now. And that's kind of where I'm going. So we'll see. Greatness don't rush also. Greatness does not rush. There was an opportunity or a deal, we'll say, to fight in Alcatraz, only recent. There's an event going on in Alcatraz in, I believe, June. And they came to me and it wasn't my worth. As a fighter, we've got to know our worth. I hold every pay-per-view record in the book. I hold every gate record in the book. And my comeback will be slated as the greatest comeback or the biggest, most anticipated comeback of all time. So it has to be right. And right now, Ireland is in my thoughts. And that's where I'm at. It will happen, I'm sure. And it's always great to be here. And there you go.
If you were to be president of Ireland, would you contemplate of fighting and being president at the same time?
And now entering the octagon, the notorious President of Ireland, Conor McGregor. What fucking right I will. Of course, are you crazy? That's part of why I want to do it. To be announced as the President of Ireland having a fight. Imagine that. But for sure. Hell yes. Hell yes.
Oh, we're all clapping. Okay. Danny, make some sense of this. I don't even know what question to ask you, where to start. Just talk.
As soon as I heard those comments, I was in Mexico. I heard him. Great job. Probably Mike who posted that on getting that out. But as soon as I heard of those comments, I'm like, this guy's done. This guy's done. The moment he said, "I'm happy with what I've done in my career," I'm like, this guy's done. And I feel like in the past we've heard all the right words, right? But we don't see the action. And that's where we've been confused as to, is he actually fighting? Is the UFC kind of holding him back? Does he not want to fight? But after hearing that, man, I really doubt this guy's gonna fight in any meaningful fight in terms of like UFC. Will he fight KSI or Logan Paul or something? Maybe, but I just think the competitor in him it died. I don't think it's there anymore. And I completely understand. The dude's made a ton of money. The last time he fought, like he almost had a life-changing injury. He doesn't have to fight. He's got a lot on his plate in terms of like being a promoter, handling his business, and now apparently wanting to go into politics. But yeah, I think I'm officially with this comment. I'm officially putting Conor McGregor's name out of the mix, not ever discussing him again, unless he were to get in trouble or actually book something. But as of now, in my mind, he's retired. He's done.
All right. And Nolan, how would you interpret those comments? You agree with Danny? Like that was a moment of clarity for a lot of us?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of like almost relieved to hear him say the quiet part out loud, right? And if you look at it, if he was actually offered that Alcatraz boxing fight, I believe that's a Saudi event, right? So like, there's your opportunity to do something special and probably get paid an unbelievable amount of money. And, you know, maybe Turkey, somebody obviously that's got a good relationship with Dana. So the UFC could get some kickback. Like it's something that would have been very, in my opinion, not knowing all the details, seems like it would be Conor level financially viable, right? And it was special and different and seems to go into the McGregor brand, right? Kind of having a fight at Alcatraz. So I think that's all we need to know, really. You know, I don't think that means to me that he's legitimately not interested in fighting anytime soon.
I wonder why Alcatraz too. I mean, I just don't understand that. I would think the Roman Coliseum. A lot of people have talked about bringing that back, but all right, goes. We talked a little bit about this on Junkie Radio. I may have to concede, man. After hearing the way Danny said it, maybe I just had my moment of clarity. This fool ain't coming back.
I think the first thing that tells you a lot is just look at his body, right? Anybody who's serious about competing in the UFC, he's still enormous. You know, he's got to shed some of that if he's going to want to compete in the UFC. And he doesn't look like he's anywhere near doing any of that. So I think he's all out told us we'll never see him again in the UFC. Running for president, could he do it? Yeah. Is he going to win? Probably not. I would imagine his opponent would probably run that clip right there and show the people of Ireland what his interests are compared to
a lot of clips. There's a lot of other clips they can run too.
There's a lot. But see, the thing about Conor is I think he's just addicted to the high. I think he's addicted to doing things that people say he can't do. If you go back and you look at the run with him and Mayweather, nobody ever talks about the fight, how the fight actually played out. We talk about the lead up, how big it was, what it did for both sports. I think he likes being a part of those types of things. So could you run for president and build something up like that? Probably, yeah. I don't think he really cares if he wins or loses. He probably knows he'll lose, but I think just having his face in the public eye is what he wants.
Bro, there's so many clips out there for his opposition.
There are a lot.
Yeah, McGregor, you did well with the whiskey. You're doing well at BKFC, but even if the numbers were right, I guess the UFC has to play ball, right? Because they can offer him all the money in the world, but if the UFC doesn't agree, and Nolan, educate me here. This whole thing about they're keeping him on ice because of the Netflix deal or the ESPN re-signing or maybe one of the bigger channels. Aren't those guys, Goes was saying yesterday, aren't they smart enough to say, look, here's the money for a 6-year deal with the UFC, but if McGregor fights, we tack this on. Right? I don't think they're just holding on to him because of this deal. That sounds to me like bullshit now.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. I mean, I can't say for sure. But yeah, I don't necessarily think that's true, particularly where like, I don't know, maybe they would, but would any broadcast company look at this and say, oh, they're mentioning Conor, he's going to fight twice for us? I don't think so. You know, and I think, again, this boxing fight's a perfect example. Like Turkey was involved. Sure, the UFC, if they got their money from him to let him use Conor, it could happen, and Conor still said no. So, yeah, I'm with you, George, on that.
So I think most of us just feel like he's retired. He's not gonna fight. He's more likely to stay retired than to fight, right?
Yeah.
And will he enter politics, or is this all bullshit? Just head nods.
I mean, he could try, but there's
I
no
think
way
he'll
he's going to
try.
have any success. People in Ireland, from what I understand, and don't like him very much, and I understand why. Right, he doesn't have the best image, and a lot of people associate Ireland and Conor McGregor. So, yeah, I think Tito Ortiz probably will have had a. Conor will have less success.
I mean,
in
Tito
politics than
won,
Ortiz.
so
Yeah, Tito won. That's what I'm saying.
He just didn't show up to meetings
Well, he did. He just didn't. His mask didn't show up. But
via Zoom, I think. Yeah.
in the parking lot outside.
Yeah.
As freedom and all that stuff.
Conor McGregor should almost watch this clip and just go, "Oh my god, I'm ridiculous. These guys can't even help me out here." He's got to figure something out, but he's just jumping around, and he's too big of a star to. You ever see Cristiano Ronaldo show up to an event? I mean, he just walks the red carpet, takes a few pictures, sit down. Everyone wants to be with him or whatever, and then he exits with his kid or whatever. Like, he's a true global superstar. And Conor McGregor's just bouncing around, man, like, Yosemite Sam, just woo, doing ridiculous things the whole time. And I don't know, he should be at a higher level. All right, guys, let's talk about some of the other big stories from this past week. Danny, Kyoji Horiguchi's back, or the Gooch, as he's known, with the UFC. What's your reaction? Gooch. Can he become a champion?
I am hyped for this because the UFC flyweight division needs names. And Kyoji's just a perfect name because he's a veteran. He's fought for the title in the UFC, rising champion, former Bellator champion. So he's already known by the fan base. It's not like Kai Asakura, where the UFC had to introduce him to the fan base. We already know him. He's still game. He's still a legit fighter. And man, there's so many fun fights for him at 125 pounds. And yes, maybe he could become champion. I'm not as high on him as Nolan is, maybe correct me, Nolan. But from some of the comments that he said earlier, I don't think he has the best shot at becoming champion. But like, is he going to be in the conversation? Sure. And could he maybe sneak in there? I wouldn't be surprised or too surprised.
Nolan be tripping, Danny? Danny, is Nolan tripping?
No, just goes.
Okay.
Just goes in this episode.
I was just trying to start.
He was just thinking about it.
Yeah, okay.
His internet was tripping.
Goes Jeff Neal's out of UFC 314. Do you want to rebook versus Prates? And how big of a blow is this to the 314 card?
The UFC's making it sound like that's not the route that they're going to take. And as far as the blow to 314, I don't know that it hurts too much. I mean, that card is so stacked. I would say, actually, whatever you're going to do, maybe focus it on Quebec. I think that it's an okay card, but I think maybe you can help it out a little bit if you book the right fight there.
George, so preserve Prates and Neal and put it in Quebec, or just you think?
I don't think the UFC wants to. I think they're going to do something else with Prates, so we'll have to see what that is.
Go ahead, Danny.
I think it's going to be a big blow to the Miami nightlife industry. Can you imagine what an after party would be for Carlos Prates in Miami? Holy shit. Yeah. That'd be fun.
The UFC sounded like they were up to something. I feel like Leon Edwards got on the phone or something and said, "Hey, man, I look like crap. I got to rewrite this. Put me in against that guy. I'll fight soon." Or maybe that can't be Masvidal. Masvidal's angling for Edward. What do you guys think they might have up their sleeves? You got any names out there, guys? Ian Gary? I don't know.
I think Gary, maybe.
Yeah. I'd like to see it at Quebec. I agree. 314, I think it's still solid. It survives. How about the GFL? They announced a bunch of events. Do we like the cards? What's the excitement level? Nolan, what are your thoughts? Have you seen that back-to-back they're doing in LA?
Yep. I think it's going to be some long days, right? A lot of fights on both those cards. I think there's 31 fights or something between the two. Some fights are more interesting than others. Like, my thing is, I'm very against like guys that have been taking way too much brain damage getting in there against each other. However, I think there is a class of fighters that are kind of forgotten about when it comes to, they go to the UFC, maybe they're competitive, they do well, and then, I don't know, they have 15, 20 fights, and then kind of maybe the UFC is not interested or their contract's too big, but they're still competitive. But then after that, they don't really have anywhere to go, right? Like, if PFL doesn't want them, like I look at like John Dodson, right? Like, he was a good fighter. He wasn't really the most entertaining maybe in the UFC's eyes. He's not even with GFL, but I'm just giving out a name. Like, there are vets that don't really have anywhere to go. So those sort of guys, I don't mind, like, booking them against each other. They're still competitive if they haven't taken too much damage. But then there's the other side of it, which is like, okay, guys that we really don't want to see, people that have retired for good reason, and they're on there. So there's some that are like, for some weird reason, the Ferguson Danis fight, I'm kind of like, all right, like this is kind of crazy, but at the same time, I'm kind of interested to watch it. So like I'll be the first one sitting there watching it. So I'm not sure, man. I guess we'll have to see what the product looks like, how serious some of these fighters are taking it. And again, hopefully the guys that we've seen just get obliterated over the years, and have even some of them have been in the UFC antitrust suit is saying that they have brain issues, and then all of a sudden they're booked for GFL. So that
Really?
sort of stuff, like I'm not
Wow.
about. So
Yeah, that's interesting. How about you, Goes? This is going to be in LA. You going to put in for a credential? Some decent names out there.
I think I might. I want to give it a chance and just see what it's all about. They have my attention at the moment, and I guess they're going up against like a PFL. I think PFL probably do a better job of holding my attention overall, but it's interesting. It's something new. I probably want to at least give it a shot.
Faber, Barral, Zingano, Cowboy Oliveira, Danny, you feeling it?
People have been following me for a while. They know I'm a sucker for the Legends division, and I think there is a big place for that in MMA. And I do feel like it unnecessarily gets a lot of crap. Now, some fights do get some like pretty ridiculous, but there are some fights on this card that are fine that I would watch gladly. I think Anthony Pettis versus Benson Henderson 3 is going to be fun. Chad Mendes, at least the last time I saw him competing,
I kind of disagree with that.
He looked great. Huh?
Yeah, I kind of disagree with the Pettis Henderson. I just don't feel he's 2-0 against them. Like, why do we need to see a third one? Like, I don't know.
No, I don't think we do need to see a third one, but I think it's a fairly big, and I do think it'll be a fine fight. I don't think each guy is at a point in their career like maybe Tony Ferguson, where they're like just completely washed. I feel like there's a lot still left in them to kind of entertain the fan base. So and like that, there's a bunch of other matchups here that I do like. Roelis de Spain versus Todd Duffy. Sounds fun to me. I don't know, but I like this. I do like it. We'll see how it plays out. But
yeah, back-to-back weeks in LA, folks. A lot of big names. I'll give the GFL that. They definitely grabbed my attention. Real quick shout out to Antonina Shevchenko, who officially retired from mixed martial arts. Her and her sisters put out statements. She's going to focus on her aviation career, which she has been doing for the last 5 years or so, but I guess that's really taken off. So that's why I think she's just done with fighting and wanted to make it official. Good for her, man. She had an extensive Muay Thai record, world champion there, came to the UFC, held her own. Of course, it's her younger sister, obviously, who's been the more legendary figure in the UFC by far, but still, she had a nice ride, and it was fun watching these two sisters compete. All right, so let's talk about some featherweights now in the UFC this weekend. So, Nolan, we have a great vacant title fight at 145 because Topuria left. Holloway's out of the picture. It's Volk versus Lopez. Evloev's not far behind. Tell me, what are the stakes here in the Emmett Lerone Murphy fight coming up? Are they kind of fighting for next after Evloev? Is it pretty important of a fight for the division here?
Yeah, it's pretty, in my opinion, it's performance based. I would kind of put it as a title eliminator. So win this one, and maybe you'll put yourself in a title eliminator. That's what I see. Both guys are on a roll. Emmett hasn't fought for a while. He's kind of older. Murphy getting his, the biggest fight of his career, big opportunity. I think perhaps he has more to gain, right? If he keeps going like he's going and he gets through Josh Emmett, a guy that's really tough to get through, and really only title challengers and champions get through him. I think that would be huge for his career. And then for Emmett, I think he, with a win, would propel himself into probably a title eliminator sort of fight.
Someone named Pitbull is going to be fighting at 314. He comes via Bellator, via the PFL. He's got Yair Rodriguez. What do you think, man? Does that fight maybe, is it pitted against Emmett and Lerone Murphy in terms of, like Nolan said, title eliminator to the title eliminator?
Could be. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how the UFC views Pitbull, because I think it's a big name. We finally get to see him in the UFC, but I can't tell if they're trying to use his name to put over Yair Rodriguez, or if they're actually genuinely excited about what he could do in the UFC. So I think it's a what have you done for me lately situation. And, You think about a guy like Yair Rodriguez when he wins. It's not necessarily a boring type of fight, right? The guy's pretty exciting. So you never know what can happen with these guys.
In addition to the UFC, we have PFL starting off their 2025 campaign here in the United States. I mean, aside from anything like PFL Europe or whatever. And so this one's called PFL 2025 1. It's got welterweights and featherweights in tournaments. They fight 3 times per year now, world tournaments, and the winner gets 500,000 at the end. Names like Gabriel Braga, Jesus Pinedo, Jason Jackson, Magomed Umalatov, Logan Storley, they're all on this card. So, Danny, let's go to you. Who do you think are your early favorites in the welterweight and featherweight division, which is going to be featured starting on Thursday for PFL?
Yeah. At featherweight, I think the winner of Jesus Pinedo versus Adam Borix is going to win the whole thing. Jesus Pinedo is very, very good, and he won last year's or the year before. A very, very solid guy. He was in Mexico just now because he's friends and training partners of Kevin Borjas, who defeated Lazy Boy. That team is right now doing very, very well, and I can see him getting a second title win. But I think that's only if he gets past Adam Borix. If Borix is able to get him out of the tournament, I think is his to win. And at 170, man, I think it's tougher, but because of the structure, I'd like to favor Logan Storley. Obviously, he's more of a wrestling type format, and I don't know. I do think that that it could favor this style could favor Logan, and he could maybe get the win here. But yeah, competitive stuff at both 45 and 170.
You know what? Danny brought up Logan Storley, and I think he's a dark horse because you have to remember elbows now, right? And who is that going to help out? A guy like Logan Storley getting you down, being able to throw elbows now, that could be a game changer.
Danny also mentioned Kevin Borjas, and I can't believe we skipped segment 1 without mentioning how great he looked. That's amazing. My bad as a Peruvian. That's my bad right there. Nolan, how about you, man? Who are your early candidates? Who are you looking as favorites for welterweight and featherweight over at PFL?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good field. I think it's competitive. Like, there's not one of those like, oh, this guy's definitely going to win. But I think Mavlid Kabayulayev, I believe his name is. He won in 2021, and he's kind of disappeared since then. Like, he's fought a couple times. He was a force to be reckoned with. I think he knocked out Damon Jackson, I believe, with a knee back in the day. I'd have to check that one out again, but he's good at featherweight. And then at 170, Magomed Umalatov, who was the finalist last year, the runner-up. He's probably at the top of my list. But Thad Jean as well, good prospect that they have, 8-0, kind of giving him an opportunity here to kind of enter the field as well. I'm excited to see what he has in store too. So it's a good field, man. I think it's competitive, and I prefer this much more so over the them just doing the season format. I think these Grand Prix sort of style tournaments that coincide with your stars fighting good title challengers is a good compromise for the tournament versus non-tournament fans.
Joes, how about you?
I think Umalatov and Pinedo. I think those are Pinedo's gonna have a tough time, but I think he can get it done.
Umalatov lost to Shamil Musayev, so you know he's gonna be hungry. And speaking of hungry, I think Borix is one of the favorites as well, but I think Pinedo's going to stop him. Pinedo's a G, man. I really like his style. And shout out to that team in Lima, Peru, led by Pitbull, their coach, Ivan Iberico, I believe his name is. Holy cow, that team looks like they're in for each other. They help each other. Like, they relocate together. If someone's fighting at a higher altitude, they corner each other. I'm going to have to stop by in Lima sometime and check out that gym. I think Peru's deserving of a fight night or something because they're producing a lot of fighters. So, all right.
Nobody will make weight on that card, dude.
What's that?
Nobody will make weight on that card. Food's too good.
Yeah.
Hey, some really nice comments coming through in the chat room. And Anshul Jubilee says, yeah, I want to see some Shamil Musayev soon. I think he's one of the best welterweights in the world, actually. And thank you all for tuning in. Some of you come through Facebook, some of you come through YouTube. It's live every Monday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. We get together, us colleagues, at MMA Junkie and discuss the biggest stories in MMA. And you can help us grow by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. The like triggers the algorithm so that we get in front of more eyeballs. But even if you want to take it a step further, like if you really love the show the way we love you guys, maybe share it with your friends, post it on your social media. You never know, man. Sometimes you have a buddy that you didn't even know was an MMA fan. That's happened to me with a lot of my relatives. I can't believe how many of them actually watch MMA in Peru. So we connect that way. But anyway, thank you so much again, and we'll see you all next Monday. Go out and be a champion.